Welcome, welcome. I'm Dr. Bart Rademaker, Prescription for Your Transformation, Real People, Real Conversations, and Real Success. Once again, delighted with a very special guest and, of course, an amazing producer, Sedona. And I'm going to hold off for a second with introducing my incredible guest today because I want to put it all in context. And it is my belief that we live in an intelligent universe. Nothing happens by random. And so the real question that we want to ask ourselves, where is that intelligence? Are we not tapping that intelligence and maybe living an unintelligent life? I mean, let's define that for a moment. Intelligence is about making smart decisions and taking smart actions based on how those are aligned with your true identity, your true soul purpose, if you will. And when we're disconnected from that part within us, which quite frankly, most of us really are, then we have these interesting experiences, and I would call them uncomfortable experiences, disturbances, if you will. Not trying to say it's a negative or a positive in any sense, not qualifying emotions as negative or positive, but these are disturbances within the vibration of our soul that cause us to be disconnected with our true self, our true soul, our true purpose, and our environment and nature around us. And so the question that we have to ask ourselves, what's really going on here? What is it that I don't know that's going to make the difference? Because then you can start cluing into finding the solutions that create that alignment with your soul, with yourself, so that you can be more true to yourself. One thing that I also believe in is that there's 10 times more of us within us. Some people say it's 20 times more within us that really allow us to be connected and manifesting our true potential. So today is very exciting for me because I went on this journey a while back. And this journey is called Burning Man, for anybody of those who know there. And I went there with an intention. And the intention was I was going to meet somebody. And no, it's not what you're thinking. It's not a girl. I already got that taken care of. But I was going to meet somebody that would be pivotal in my life into the whole arena of our spirituality and the whole essence of the cosmos, of who we are, and so much more beyond that. And I was there at Burning Man, which is an incredible experience to anybody who ever would consider it. It's really nothing like you think it is. It's so much better, so much more awesome. But I was there for about 4 or 5 days, and I knew there was this really particular connection with this particular person, and didn't understand. I thought it was just kind of superficial. He was a photographer, I'm a photographer. Only to find out close to the end how remarkable Mr. Rajiv Sankarlall really is. And here's a person, if we talk about spiritual leaders, and when you listen to his humble presence, you wouldn't think that right away. And I can only begin to capture only a very small fraction of the greatness of Rajiv. And this is a person that you want to watch out for because he's going to make big differences for all of us, for the world, our understanding, our relationships. And I know he told me earlier on that I'm putting the pressure on him, but I know that's not true because truly he's a remarkable human being. And today we're going to have an amazing conversation. Rajiv, thank you for joining me today.
Thank you for having me. You put me in some big shoes to fill there, Doc.
No, not at all.
No pressure.
Well, actually, you know what? I did. But just remember, your feet are so big right now, right? Bigger than life, in a sense. Uh-huh. So for the rest of us, you're already big. Just because you're going to get bigger, that's okay too, because our world actually needs that.
No, I appreciate it. I thank you a lot, and I'm humbled to be here on your show. So yeah.
So let's put you in context, and with your story first, and how you got started, and I know quite a few things about you, and I'm just going to let you share them, naturally and organically, like you will. And also for those listeners, just to appreciate that the importance of understanding are having the perception or the awareness, if you will, of the chaos in the world around us and how chaotic and dysfunctional many of the energies are. And this is not a political session. This is not a religious session. This is a place where we can express our views and our ideas more in a generative sense, in a collaborative sense. And so today we're going to talk about, what are some of the things that we can start looking at and become more aware of, and then being able to influence just the irregularities, the dysfunction of the world around us, because each and every one of us can do something about it. However small that is, it has a ripple effect on others. We can inspire others. And Rajiv, today in our conversation, I'm looking forward to helping you, the listener, get some new inspirations as to what it is you could do differently in your life that will help humanity in the future. So, Rajiv, let's start off with your story.
Oh man. So like you said, you knew me as just a photographer at Burning Man, and it was really at the end of the trip that we really got to connect and go deep. And for anyone who has not gone to Burning Man, it's definitely something you need to do once in your life at least. I'm definitely already planning to go back next year. I know, Doc, you're going back as well. And it's just been quite a journey. So like I told you earlier, before we got on here, I was born in Trinidad. I moved here when I was 18 years old. I had some series of events. I had a kidnapping attempt on my head. And I was forced to leave the country, and I came up here, seeking asylum, and I've been here ever since. And then a few years ago, and I was like 21, 22, I had a series of unfortunate events that kind of sparked an awakening. It was around 2007, and I had a whole bunch of bad stuff happen. People die on me, people disappear, like all kinds of craziness going on. And I wasn't getting answers from any three-dimensional, rudimentary, any type of answers from anything in the world today. So I started to go esoteric, and I started to look for answers from unconventional means. And normally, if you come at me with these types of stuff and I would see all these types of things, I would condemn you as a hippie and tell you to go fuck yourself, to be honest. and um, so it was very much of a stretch for me. Anyway, to fast forward that, I ended up going down this rabbit hole. And in 2008, at the end of 2008, I started traveling around the world, and I booked my first trip, and I ended up going to Egypt. And this was actually how I got into photography. So I went traveling. I always wanted to travel, and I never had the courage to do so. So one day I got up and I just booked a ticket. I always wanted to go to Egypt, as one of the places in the world. So booked airfare, hotel, no plan, no nothing, no tour, just clothes on my back and figure it out when I got there.
Wow.
And so began the journey. I got there, spent like 3 days just exploring on my own, and then I ended up meeting some friends, and meeting some really interesting people. And I came back and had this amazing experience. I was there for a month by myself. I got back and I had these amazing photos, and I had them on this little point and shoot camera. And I was like, there's no way this is going to cut it. Now I'm hooked on this adventure. Now I'm hooked on this spiritual journey. When I was in Egypt as well, too, just to highlight on the spiritual stuff, I was actually locked inside one of the tombs in the pyramids of Giza at the plateau. Back then it wasn't something that wasn't uncommon. It's not like, you see on the news, you see people climbing the pyramids and it's so illegal. Da, 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 well, I did that, like, and it wasn't a big deal. I had the cops come up and ask me for bribe money and stuff like that too. And it was fine. It wasn't like anything. So anyway, so I ended up getting locked inside these tombs, and meditating there for an hour, and I went on this whole psychedelic experience inside of the tomb. And like I said, up until this point in my life, I was the most anti against any of this type of stuff. I'm still the most skeptical person that you'll come across, in spite of all of these experiences that I've had that you'll hear about. So, anyways, I came back, got my first DSLR. Next thing you know, a few months later, I'm in Thailand, and I'm living in Thailand for 2 months, and I'm living with the monks up in the mountains and experiencing Buddhism firsthand. And I think it was the first time in my life that I actually felt peace, like real inner peace. And that was when I was studying with the monks and studying meditation directly from the source, and just understanding what emptiness and consciousness and all these different um, esoteric labels that we have today are all about, so to speak. And that led me to traveling around the world. At this point, I'm hooked now. I ended up going to several different adventures. I was in Turkey, and I was living in a 600-year-old Sufi lodge with these Sufi Islamic monks, and learning from that avenue. A few years ago, I went to the Himalayas, and I was ordained as a lama up in the Himalayas. At like, I think it was like the highest temple in the world. It was like 15,000 feet up. Studying directly from the monks again in that aspect. And it's just been one to the next to the next. I mean, recent adventure was Burning Man, and Burning Man was an adventure in a right of its own. I remember, I think it was the first morning it started. I got up and I just went for a walk. I said, I'm just going to walk out to the man and see what was about and what was going on. I walk out the road and I meet a wizard, and the wizard and I decided to go on this adventure together. And like, we're going on this thing, and it was just it was like adult Disneyland. So life has just been a series of events, and it's taught me a lot of things. I've met some really influential people. I've met some very humble people. I've met all walks of life and so forth like that, and it's giving me a deeper appreciation as well as a deeper understanding for the world around us. And it gives you like kind of like a macro bird's eye perspective on how the world is operating and how cultures are intermixing. And now we're in a world today where everything is so interconnected. I mean, the three of us are on this conversation right now, and we're on three ends of the world. Um, and it's becoming a lot smaller, a lot more delicate, a lot more where everyone has an opinion and everyone has a voice. We can go on to these webcams, we can go on to the internet, and we can say whatever we want, do whatever we want to a certain degree. And everyone has a voice and everyone has an opinion, and it's a very interesting world, and it's a whole new dynamic for humanity as a whole when you look at it on a macro scale.
Well, let's talk about that for a moment. And because right before the show, we briefly were kind of reviewing what we want to talk about, and one of the things that inspires me in all that I do as a plastic and reconstructive and regenerative surgeon, but also peak performance coach and intuitive healer, all these things is that you appreciate, and I've been fortunate too. We grew up in many different countries, but then you really appreciate the human experience. You really appreciate humanity, and I don't like to use the word suffering, but you see the pain that people have. And I've always been motivated to help people solve their pain, giving them better choices and better solutions. And that's why I personally span in so many things. And what's exciting about you is that you've got this extensive experience, this worldly experience, going to different types of philosophies and mindsets and cultures, and really tapping into that intelligence. So now you've got this amazing perspective of what's happening in the world insofar, and as we talked about, the chaos, how dysfunctional the energies are, how they interact in ways that are not productive. And again, I don't like to use the word positive, negative. I think that's an inadequate way to really describe what's really going on. Because for someone, and I know you'll agree with this, for someone something's negative, but for someone else it's positive. So it's really a chaos is happening. So what's your sense of that? Give us your thoughts about the chaos. Describe for us, if you will, your view of what that chaos really is.
And now, when you say chaos, you mean the chaos in what? In the world, or in ourself, or where are you specifically?
In the world. I mean, ultimately, it comes from ourselves. Or if you want to talk about the chaos in ourselves, in our inner world.
I mean, I think they're both interlinked, for sure.
That's for
Um,
sure.
yeah. So, I mean, when I look at the chaos in the world today, I mean, you know, it's a very, very far out there thing I'm about to say. But
Great.
if you take it in and you just sit with it for a little while, it'll start to make sense. So I look at humanity, like I say, on a macro scale. I look at evolution. I look at how far we've come as a species and how far we're going. And then I look at where, things we take for granted are the things that I notice. So at any given moment, you could be on any point on the planet within 48 hours, roughly. Depending on where exactly you're going, but on a rough estimate, within 48 hours, you could be on any given point on Earth. That's the first time in history that we can ever do that. Going out and exploring the world is usually has always been a 20-mile hike around the block. And when you look, oh, I'm getting major.
You know what that is, Sedona? It just started. Go ahead, Raj.
There we go. Okay, it stopped. So I look at humanity on this macro level and I look at where we're going and whatnot like that. And because we're in such a smaller world, like I was saying earlier, before we're in such a tight knit community, personalities are blending, thought forms are coming online, human beings are coming online. In the last 3 years, I don't know how many billions of people have gotten cell phones and access to the internet all of a sudden for the first time in history. First time in history, you got tribes in Africa to people in Siberia communicating to people in America communicating, for example, and dialogues are being forming, political opinions are being forming, views on the world are expanding. I mean, we got this whole movement going on with the flat earthers now. You know about that one?
No.
Where there's a growing movement of people that think the earth is flat still, and there's a documentary and stuff on it. Anyway, so we have that side of humanity growing as well. But at the same time too, when all of this is coming on, we have humanity growing, we have all these different things going on like that. What happens is the voice of humanity, a lot of opinions are getting thrown onto each other, and some are sticking, some are not sticking, and it's just chaos like we were originally talking about. Now, I think humanity is moving to become a galactic species. Now, that's why I said this is where it's going to get a little bit far out there. Now, we're still working out our own shit. We're still trying to come to peace and love one another rather than try to kill each other. And we also have, at the same time, we have people like Elon Musk's that are taking us to Mars. You have the expansion out into the universe, and humanity is no longer going to become an Earth civilization. Humanity is going to become a galactic civilization, where we start moving outwards over the next several centuries and thousands of years, where we start to expand into the cosmos. And it's the first time where humanity is going to be on a global scale. Now we need to sort our shit out before that happens. We can't go out there. What's going to happen when we meet some random civilization and we're still barbarians and we're still primitive in our thinking and we're not expanding our consciousness? Technologically, yes, we're there, but soul level, communication level, consciousness level, we're still very primitive, and we still carry a lot of these societary constructs and primitive mentality and thinking that's still going on today. And I think there's a huge major disconnect. And I think for humanity to rise forward and start looking at it as, okay, we're no longer going to be just earthlings. We're going to be a galactic civilization. Let's try to work our shit out and figure out, okay, this is humanity and this is what we have to offer to the universe.
So here's my question for you, right? How are we going to do that? How are we going to do that?
Well, that's the $1 billion question, isn't it? I mean, that's why I said it's the chaos and all that type of stuff, it's interconnected. We have to work on ourselves. Self-awareness is number one. What are you doing every day that you are unconscious about? What triggers? What self-talk? What perspectives on the world are you taking with you? And you don't even know that you're doing it. I have family members, not to get into politics, but I have family members on both sides of the fence on the politics, with Democrat, Republican, and so forth like that. And I listen to some of the conversations on both sides of it, and I don't associate myself politically. Like I say, I look on everything as a macro level and so forth. But I listen to both sides of the argument, and it's just a lot of misinformation and unself-awareness, and a lot of the times it comes back to the ego. A lot of the times it's I know better because it's my way and I've seen it this way, and you can't tell me otherwise. And then you go on into your life and someone tells you something and you say the same thing onto them, and it's this perpetual cycle of chaos breeding onto itself. And really, Gandhi said it best: all change comes from within. So, and be the change you want to see in the world that way. So, I think that's the number one way to really fix things and really move forward and really evolve as a civilization, is to start looking at ourselves, look at our own belief, have some self-awareness, take some deep breaths every day, and sit down and do some breathing and ask myself, hey, where is this thought coming from? What's making me trigger this action, and so forth like that? Am I really being upset with somebody, or this is an outside circumstance that's causing me to feel this way? And at the end of the day, we all just want to be seen. We all just want to be heard. We all just want to be felt. We all just want to be loved. So let's cut all the crap that's going on and just focus on that, and find a small group of people that will support you on that, and then grow outwards from there, and it'll create a ripple effect.
I totally agree with you, and my perspective is very much like yours, and saying it in a different manner is that we simply don't recognize our own personal limitations as human beings. We cage ourselves in, we imprison ourselves in the limited view of ourselves, and we also don't realize the magnificence and the greatness of the world around us. And there, right there's that huge disconnect, because we're using all these different memes, and memes, for those who are not aware of that, are just chunks of thoughts, chunks of ideas that spread around almost like viruses, because we get infected by other people's ideas. And the truth is that the way that we then get to show up within our own narrow-minded view of ourselves, limited view of ourselves, we are very much threatened by anything that can happen outside of that. Like you and I know this really neat guy. He's kind of big, who says, life begins outside of your comfort zone. And that's Tony Robbins, by the way, for anybody who doesn't know. And and what a great man he is for opening the horizons for so many people. And that's exactly what we need. It's what you're saying is, how do we develop a higher level of awareness of what's going on? What are those triggers that are happening within us? And simply recognizing too that we're allowing those triggers to affect our behavior. It's not anybody else. We can't blame anybody else, and that's why I like to say, we live in an intelligent universe. Nothing happens by random, and you're a product of all your decisions and experiences, emotions to this very, very moment. So it's your fault. Anybody listening here right now, it's your fault you're on this show. Sedona, it's your fault you're here today, right?
A couple people just changed the channel.
Yeah, exactly. Oops. They're going to miss out because, again, I'm actually, for anybody who just joined in, I'm talking to Raj, and I have to look over here, Sankarlall. I think I said that correctly. How do you say your name correctly?
Sankarlall is fine, yeah.
Sankarlall. Amazing human being and spiritual leader for all of us, but in a way, as a spiritual leader, not attached really to any particular dogma or way of thinking, but really helping us as individuals in what I like to call our own personal evolution. And it's in that personal evolution where I think a lot is going to change in the world. For so many of us, including myself in a sense, even though I'm rebel by nature, we're still at the effects of many of the powerful people in the world, whether politicians or other types of rulers, other types of influences, marketing, which is one of your fortes, by the way. We're very much influenced by these kind of things outside of us that we're simply not aware of. And so for our world, for our humanity to really evolve, like you're saying, that needs to evolve, we can no longer be dependent on the gurus or the influencers to influence how we think and how we behave. It has to come in from inside. And that's where people like you are going to help us really get that connection within ourselves and make a difference.
There's a documentary on Netflix. I don't know if you've seen it, and for any of the people listening, it's called Kumare. I don't know if you've ever seen it.
No.
It's the funniest thing. It was this Indian dude from New Jersey that he grew out his beard, dressed in orange, and he went to like Arizona and set up shop and told everybody he was this mystical guru from India. And it was just this kid from Jersey. And he went in there and he started going to all these different spiritual centers and teaching. And all he was teaching was, I'm a fake. I'm a fraud. There is no me. There is only you. And so forth like that. And and then at the end of the movie, it's a documentary, it's real. And at the end of it, he revealed to everybody, he shaved off his beard. He said, I'm really from Jersey. I didn't grow up in India, and half the following left, but half the following stayed with him and call him up all the time for advice and like different views on the world. And it's just interesting when you're telling me that I'm going to be one of the people to do all these different types of things and stuff like that. And that's like the first thing that popped into my head, because I'm no guru, I'm no spiritual teacher. I mean, I guess you can call me a spiritual teacher, but I'm no major guru and so forth like that. I just see the world and I see where humanity is going on the positive side, but I also see humanity where it's going on the negative side. And I know a lot of people go through this world and they're in chaos and they're just trying to make sense of the craziness that is reality, because we grow up and we watch these TV shows and so forth like that, and we think of this idea of the normal world. But when you get out there, there's no normal world, man. It's all nuts. It's all chaos out there. So, and sometimes it's just having a voice to be like, I see you. I hear you. I get what's going on. And that's mainly what my forte is, and helping people along with their journey, to get to where they want to go.
So I'm going to ask a question to Sedona. What are your thoughts on all this?
I think that you have a really interesting point when you say that there is no normal world, and I think that's something that a lot of people don't think about that often. That was kind of my first impression when I moved out of the house and went to college and started going off on my own, that there's a lot of people that when you ask them like what they do for work, they give you these crazy answers that you never like learn about. You never like know that those jobs exist. And that's not even the half of it. Like there's just so many different ideas and ideals that you wouldn't get back in your home community and things like that. And I think it's important to share those and hear everybody's ideas.
There's only one normal, and that's a setting on a washing machine.
That's funny. It's true. That was one of the. Go ahead.
Uh-huh. No, go ahead. You go ahead.
No, I was just gonna say it was one of the things that I learned from my travels as well too. Is just I went out there and I went for looking for this normal. What is this normal everyone keeps talking about? And I go to all these different places and so forth like that, and I'm still waiting to find it. Then I go to Burning Man and threw everything out the window. It's never happening.
So share your experience of Burning Man. What was that all about?
Oh man. So Burning Man was my first burn.
And explain a little bit about for anybody who doesn't know what Burning Man is.
Anybody who doesn't know Burning Man is the largest festival on earth, I think, or like the best festival on earth or something like that. But it's not really a festival. It's a city that's built in the desert. You take everything in with you. You take everything out with you. There's 10 rules in which you have to follow. It's all about inclusion. It's all about love. It's all about radical self-reliance, which is relying on your own self. And it's all a gifting-based economy. Once you're in there, everything is free, gift-based. So it was just, it's something that, you hear people talk about, and they're always like, you got to go there to really experience what it's like. And I can't really verbalize it to you. And I was always like, yeah, whatever. And then I got there and I was like, okay, I get it now. You really have to go and experience it. I mean, the only thing that I can tell you is like, okay, like one night I went out with this wizard that I met, and we just decided to go for a walk. And we were just walking in the middle of the desert, first day out, don't know what to expect. And we see this tree out in the middle of nowhere. And I was like, wow, there's a tree in the middle of the desert. Let's go over there. So we walked down to the tree, and all of a sudden there was a pirate ship sailing through the desert. So I was like, wow. And our intention before we went out was we weren't going to take bikes. We were just going to go walk and find these art cars, which are like these really nice looking art sculptures that are on wheels, and people go and they're like little party buses, so to speak. And so we went out there and we saw this this narwhal pirate ship sailing through the desert. And earlier in the morning, I was having a conversation with somebody from the camp, and I was doing some coaching on him and taking him through a process. And I get out there, and the captain of the pirate ship turned out to be this dude that I met only a few hours earlier in the morning. And I was like, whoa. So next thing you know, I had no clue. So I flag him down. Next thing you know, me, this captain, and the wizard are on this pirate ship sailing through the desert together. And it was just, one of those funny experiences. And then out of the blue, someone comes up and hands me a popsicle. So here I am in 120 degrees, and I got a popsicle in my hand on top of a pirate ship. I'm not walking anywhere. I'm sailing now. Like, life is just golden. All I'm going in my mind is row, row, row your boat. Life is but a dream. And so that was just one experience. We went and we had this amazing experience at the temple. The temple is this wooden structure that they build, and they burn it at the end of the week, and it's a form of clearing and energy healing and so forth like that. And it was a really, really nice day, and that was just day one. And then other nights I went out and so forth like that. Did you go to the phone booth with Conversation for God?
Yeah.
Talk to God.
Yeah.
So I was taking everybody there that week to talk to God. And when you pick up the phone, there's actually somebody on the other end most days. We went a couple times, there's nobody there. God didn't want to talk to us. And at the end of the week, I'm there on Saturday night, and I'm just like, everyone went and talked to God on the phone and whatever. And then I pick up the phone and I was like, hey, God, I just wanted to say thanks. You hooked my friends up with advice all week, whatever. And God goes, I'm going to send one of my disciples to give you something. And all of a sudden, out of the shadows, this guy shows up, and he has a hot grilled cheese sandwich, and he hands it to me. And I tell you what, after partying all night, and it was like 3 o'clock in the morning, that was the best goddamn grilled cheese sandwich I ever had. And I gave it to the people that I was with, and I went off into the back and ended up meeting God and have a whole conversation with God in the back of the some tent somewhere. And it was amazing. So stuff like that happens. Found out it was.
Are you going to share with us the gender of God?
Oh, so the first time I picked up the phone, God was a female.
Okay.
And the second time I called, God was a male. So we got a little bit of duality going on there.
So for people who are absolutely unfamiliar with Burning Man and perhaps have an interesting thoughts about it, It's a city of 70,000 people that migrate to the middle of the desert where as a month before the city opens, in essence, there's absolutely nothing. There's no evidence whatsoever that anybody was there. And then probably within about 2 weeks, I assume, maybe less, after everybody's left, again, there's no evidence. And it's just that morality in a sense, that respect for the universe, for nature, for the world, just saying we can create something beautiful and we can also nurture and take care of the world at the same time. And when you think about 70,000 people coming in, leaving absolutely no trace after they leave, and even more importantly, what I think is absolutely amazing is, there's nowhere else in the world where you can have this absolute complete range of characters and personalities where you're allowed to explore your own self-expression in any way that you want. I mean, there are basically no rules except for don't harm anyone. And where it is about acceptance, it is about expressing yourself, it is about carrying out your fantasies in a sense, wearing costumes and being playful that way. And yeah, for some people, there's this debauchery and other kind of stuff that happens, and that's also part of humanity, whether you like it or not. It's whatever is within you is real, and whatever's in you, as I like to share with my patients who undergo surgery, whatever experience you have is perfectly right for you. And so the key here is that you get to experience life in a way that you've never been able to do before, and it's okay. And sometimes you just have to get stuff out of the system so that you can just let it go. And that's, again, that purpose of at the end where we burn the temples. First the man is burnt, and then the other temple is burnt, so that you can let go of stuff. And the letting go, it's a very profound experience. And it's a profound experience that all of us need to have on a regular basis. And you don't have to go to Burning Man for that. But it's really about letting go of the obstructions and self-imposed limitations that you have on yourself so that you can be the best version of yourself. And if within this idea, this construct, using Raj's word, of your spiritual evolution, which it's inevitable in all of us, it's just that some of us go faster than others, is you're going to want to find people out there that can support you, that can teach you, that can guide you, that have done a lot of the work themselves. And that's why I'm appreciating Raj so much, because he's done a lot of the work that most of us can never ever begin to imagine being able to do, going to all these different monks in different countries, seeing all these different things, and then helping us see the world in a different way without even going to those places. If you really want to make the real difference for yourself, then yeah, you do want to go to some of those places.
I just wanted to add on that note, because you were talking about how even if you don't go to Burning Man, you should still have these type of experiences, and it triggered one of the realizations that I did have from Burning Man, and that was exactly like that. It wasn't just about getting that experience at Burning Man, because if I were to look at all of my travels, I've had very similar experiences in terms of my own breakthroughs and my own understanding of the world. Burning Man was just another catalyst of that.
Right.
But my travels around the world also unlocked certain parts of myself and my identity. But if I were to look at the commonality over all of them, then I would say it's more about keeping an open mind, and letting the journey take you where it's meant to take you. And you might have fears and you might have doubts. You will definitely have fears and you will definitely have doubts. And you will definitely have voices telling you that you're wasting money and what are you doing and so forth, like that. And at the end of the day, make sure it's something that you're doing for you to expand, regardless of if it's going to the Himalayas or going to do indoor skydiving one day. You know what I mean? It's all about your openness to expand your being, to expand your consciousness, to experiment and grow as a human being and push your boundaries a little bit. Otherwise, what are you doing? You're staying in a box for the rest of your life, and you'll live in a box and you'll die in a box. And then, they'll bury your ass in a box these days now too.
Right.
So, do you really want to live a boxed life? I was looking at talking to some of my family members about this the other day, about this whole concept of, the baby boomer generation, where you work your entire life, and then at the end, when you retire, then you go travel, then you go do stuff, then you go experience your life and so forth like that. And that was what was instilled in me from a very young age. That's what you need to do: work your entire life, and then, in the last few years, then go play. And I was always against that mentality. And I always said, why am I going to wait until my body is breaking down? I'm in the prime of my life now. Let me start doing this now. And I just noticed that, not like you, because you obviously travel all the time and so forth like that. You're an exception to this. But I noticed that the average person would say that they're spending their entire life and then working, and then at the end they want to retire. But I started noticing a pattern recently, that a lot of these people that said they were going to do that, now they got to the end, now they're retired, and they're staying at home. They don't want to leave. They don't want to go anywhere. They're remaining in this boxed mentality. And now you spent 60 something, 70 something years programming your mind to remain in the certainty bubble. And now it's going to be a little bit harder for you to stretch yourself, as opposed to when you're younger. Like Sedona could probably jump on a plane and go anywhere around the world right now, and she won't have an issue doing that. There's a lot of people today that are don't want to do that at all. They prefer to stay in their little boxed environment. And so, if anything out of that anyone gets from this, is to really like push your boundaries and really expand, and just experiment 5% every day.
One of the big fears that people have, and is the fear of rejection, and the fear of being criticized, and the fear of not being loved. And so I think sometimes, that's what causes people to stay within this bubble, because if they're going to venture out, then in a place that's scary for others, too scary for others, then they're going to be rejected and outcasted, and now you're on your own.
Mm-hmm.
It takes a lot of courage to do what you did, is, go to a foreign country at a young age, where obviously still you're very young in your, let's say, spiritual, maturity, if you will, and still having that courage to go out there and take a chance. Bad things happen out there in the world. And so one of the things that I always like to focus on, in many of my talks, and particularly my coaching, and when I talk to Sedona too, she's included in this, is permission to be human.
Mm-hmm.
Just giving yourself the acknowledgement that you're flawed. And I don't like the word that people sometimes use, you're perfectly imperfect. I mean, that's nonsense. That's just stupid.
Yeah.
You're flawed. There's stuff that's wrong with you. And my epiphany came a couple of years ago, when I had to start branding myself as an entity, because here am I doing all these different things. And, it's confusing to people, and sometimes upsetting to people, because, again, like you say, you talk about that certainty, and here's a plastic surgeon that's doing this and he's doing that, and what? He's esoteric stuff. I mean, who is this guy, right?
Right.
So what I've discovered as I was developing my brand, which is Dr. Rademaker now, doing all these different things, is that my identity needed to celebrate my faults and my weaknesses. And what that meant for me, not allowing to have these faults and weaknesses, and giving them permission to go, do havoc out there in the world, but really just giving myself permission to be aware, giving myself permission to be aware that these are out there. And now I know something that I can work on, because any of these faults and weaknesses are just holding me back. They're not bad. They're not wrong. They're simply holding me back from being the best version of myself. And you're exactly right in that people want to be right all the time. They want to be safe, and will simply not venture out because they're not giving themselves permission to be wrong, not giving themselves permission to be rejected. I can guess, and let me ask Sedona this question. How many people reject you, Sedona, because you are being really proactive and successful, and you're a go-getter, and besides the fact that you're super intelligent.
Um, I mean, I've been very fortunate that there haven't been that many rejections, but that's a part of
That you're
life.
aware of? That you're aware of, right?
I mean, there's been a few of those too, but I mean, that's part of life and you move on and there really is no failure. You just have to find your path.
Have people been nasty to you?
Um, yeah, at times, but I kind of like to keep the mentality that people aren't really out to get you. They're just out for themselves and everybody's just trying to find their own way and sometimes you don't match up.
She's pretty evolved, right, Raj? For someone who's only 19, that's impressive.
That's a very deep statement.
Yeah.
The average girl your age is worrying about, I don't know what they're worrying about, but it's not that.
see, so that's awesome. I mean, and this is, I think, what's so important is how, if we just listen to others, and just like you're saying, we can learn so much from other people's perspectives. People are learning today from Sedona. I'm learning from today. I know you're learning from today. Just because we all have different experiences and different mindsets. And wouldn't it be nice just to bring that all together? And that's the reason why I have this platform, by the way, is to bring all these ideas together and help people just realize that, yeah, I like that idea too. I mean, I wasn't allowed to have it before, but hey, they have it, so that means I'm okay. Absolutely. And especially if Raj has it, then it's definitely okay.
I will add on to the fear of rejection. For me, the fear of regret is a lot stronger.
That's the rocking chair test, right?
Yeah. When you look back, and that was something that if I were to define the course of my life, I always said to myself, since I started on this whole journey and so forth like that, was that I wanted to have an interesting life, that when I look back on it, regardless of the ups and downs, I was like, holy shit, what a life I've lived. And I'll close my eyes in peace. And that's always been the objective, regardless of what I'm doing career-wise at the time, regardless of who's around me and so forth like that. As long as I've had fulfilling experiences, that's all that matters. And I'm doing the extreme. Don't take a page out of my book in the sense of go and trek all the world and stuff like that if that's not your vibe. I don't want to judge anybody based on the fact that they've never left their town or stuff like that. Some people find fulfillment in starting a family. Some people find fulfillment in taking up a hobby that they've always wanted to do, but they've been scared that everyone will judge them for doing that. You know what I mean? Like, we have all these different skills and talents and so forth like that, and we sit there and we wonder about and lives we want to live, and we sit here and we condemn ourselves before we even get out the gate that, oh, what if this person doesn't like us, oh, what are my family gonna think, oh, da 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 da, and I'm just like, fuck that. It's life is way too short, and we're in such an interconnected world that if you like to collect something or if you like to do something, you can find 1,000 people online. They'll be like, wow, that's a great idea. I want to do that too. So there's no real rejection anymore, but there is a lot of regret.
What's interesting, and I want to share that with you too, is that for me, a pivotal moment in my life is exactly what you said. And it's a statement that I heard, and it just, I felt like I was hit by a Mack truck. And this is after I was doing a lot of the personal work that I was doing already. But what it really honed in is exactly what you're saying. And the statement is, hell on earth if I were ever to meet the man I was meant to be. So I'll say it again, hell on earth, if I were ever to meet the man I was meant to be.
Mm-hmm.
And it really stopped me. It says, oh crap, I'm not working.
Quote, right, or something like that. I
That's a
forgot
quote.
where that was from. Yeah.
And I think to myself, whoa, you know what? I need to work a little harder to be the man that I really want to be and become that man right now and not wait for that. And that's also that rocking chair test for anybody who doesn't know that. It's sort of like at the end of your days, you're in the rocking chair, you're looking back, and the rocking chair test is that, you're looking at all the wonderful things that you've done, and it's not about what you didn't do. And too often people at their deathbed, they're not celebrating the things, how wonderful their life was. They're usually, bemoaning the things that they didn't get to do, spending time with friends and family and doing things with your children or doing things with your friends or trying out new experiences. Because at that time you realize what, there aren't any restrictions. I could have done all those things. And that's the key today with ourselves is really going out there and discovering that and going beyond our limits. And I think the important part too, particularly when it comes to relationships, and you talk about not having regrets and not communicating in a sense, we have to be able to communicate with our partners and really start trying out things that we really want. Having the courage to be honest and say, you know what, I want to do this. I want to try this. I want to go there. Because if not, you build in that resentment. And I know that I was working on one of my books and really excited to go out there, and then my partner was just not there for me. And it built a lot of that resentment. And so, yes, we have to live that life that we really desire to live. And so anybody listening, just think about what Raj just said is, not having regrets. What are your thoughts?
Oh, you're talking to me. Sorry.
Yeah.
No, 100% is not about having the regrets, man. You're speaking the truth there on that. I mean, you only have one life to live. I don't care if you want to travel around the world. I don't care if you want to start a bottle cap collection. Like, you only have one life to live, and at the end of the day, the race is long, but you're only racing yourself. And go ahead.
No. How much do I have 1 minute left, Sedona?
Okay. Well then, yeah. So I'll just leave with that and wrap it up on that note.
So, I'm Dr. Bart Rademaker, Prescription for Your Transformation, Real People, Real Conversations, and Real Success, with my producer, Sedona, the amazing producer. She's so intelligent and really appreciative that she's, come on, stop shaking your head. Just nod your head. And with amazing Raj. Raj, how do people find you?
So you can find me on Facebook. My name, Rajiv Sankarlall, Rajiv as in Victor, last name Sankarlall. My email is also rajiv@sankarlall.com, or easiest thing to do is to go to mindsethq.com, and you can shoot me a message from there, and we can go from there.
Really good. Appreciate you, Raj, and with his last words. What did you just say before we were about to stop? Can you repeat that? Do you remember what you said?
The race is long, but in the end, it's only with yourself.
Yeah, you got it, guys. So thank you so much, and Sedona, just take it away.
Thanks for listening to Dr. Rademaker's Prescription for Transformation. Join Dr. Bart Rademaker live right here on Radio Star Worldwide each week, or on demand 24/7.